What's good, everyone? Welcome back to Level 11. So, today I wanted to talk about Shadow of the Erdtree as a whole and my impressions on it now that I have completed my first playthrough of the expansion for Elden Ring. I don't have a script. I don't know how long this is going to be. I've just got a small list of bullet points kind of reminding me generally what I want to talk about and in what order, and we'll just start off with my feelings for the base game to kind of get it out of the way. You probably can tell I like Elden Ring. You know, if you've watched any amount of content on this channel, a lot of my shorts are Elden Ring gameplay from my various characters and builds and playthroughs and whatever. I'm probably around 500 hours of Elden Ring, give or take. So I do enjoy the game. I do enjoy FromSoftware games in general. I do enjoy Souls-likes in general, as you could probably surmise, even if they're not FromSoftware, as I've done a live stream not only for Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree, but I've also done a full live stream playthrough for Another Crab's Treasure, as well as Lies of P, the latter of which I will be bringing up later. For now, though, to cover the general gist of my thoughts on Elden Ring, if I were to review the game on a 0.1 scale, that being not just a 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 or whatever, but like an 8.2 or a 9.4 or, whatever, I would rate Elden Ring a 9.6. That is my personal rating for the base game of Elden Ring. So yeah, I really like the game. That being said, I have my problems with it, base game-wise. As a lot of people have already said, the latter half of the game, or really the latter third of the game, really kind of falls off pacing-wise. Like, the later areas that you find seem to, be a little less, there's more repeated enemies, and there's not as much density as you would see in areas such as, like, Limgrave, or even Lernia, or the Altus Plateau. But, anyway, moving on, alongside that, one of the things that I like about Elden Ring is that it takes a little bit more of its DNA from Bloodborne and Sekiro than other entries in the past have. Because, it's basically, Elden Ring really has the DNA of Dark Souls 3 in particular, which had the DNA of Dark Souls 1 in particular. So, I love Dark Souls 1. If you've watched my top 10 video games of all time video, you'll know where Dark Souls 2 places, or excuse me, Dark Souls 1 places at the number 2 spot. That's why I said 2. Anyway, I really like Elden Ring, but I do think one of my things is I wish it had brought more DNA from Bloodborne and Sekiro. I do not believe it brought enough. In particular, I kind of wanted, how there's the light roll and the heavy roll, but the light roll that you have is available to not only people who have a medium equip load, but also people with a light equip load. I wish people with a light equip load could do, like, a Bloodborne dodge, at least when they're targeting enemies, like in Bloodborne. And alongside that, I wish that the deflecting hard tier that they put into Shadow of the Erdtree were put into the base game. And I guess that kind of brings up Shadow of the Erdtree. And before I get into Shadow of the Erdtree and how it addresses... Well, actually, I might as well do that now since I'm already on the topic of it. I do think that Shadow of the Erdtree does a good job of addressing that nitpick of mine. It brought a little bit more Bloodborne and Sekiro DNA into the mix in that sense. However, that being said, I'll just move on to my experience with Shadow of the Erdtree. It was good. It was really good. It was around the level of quality I was expecting. Maybe a little lower, but maybe not. I would say a little bit, but, again, only in nitpicky areas. One of which would be that, once you defeat the final boss, that being Radahn and Miquella, you get, a tiny little cutscene, and that's it. No credits or anything like that. Which I guess makes sense. The credits themselves, that's fair. Because, presumably just there were no changes made on the team, if that's the case. I hope that's the case. I don't really know. But anyway, I imagine that would be the case, based on what I hear as far as how Japanese companies treat their employees relative to how the United States does. Especially FromSoftware in particular. So, anyway, I do think that Shadow of the Erdtree was very good, but I also... Man, you know what? The map and the map markers, and you know, finding that one map marker on the west side of the map. You all know which one I'm talking about. That was annoying. That was annoying. In general, it was kind of annoying finding map markers. This kind of Shadow of the Erdtree kind of makes me not want to have a map in future FromSoftware games. So I don't know. I think that when I bring up the map and stuff like that, I think there's another problem with Shadow of the Erdtree, and that is that there's not enough alternative paths to crucial areas. There's only one way, as far as I know, to get that damn map marker that you all know which one I'm talking about. You all know the one. There's only one way there, and I did not notice it. And the only way to the area on the other side of the map, on the east side of the map, that is equally, you know, I wouldn't say equally challenging to find, but I found the entrance. It was a ladder in a castle. You know which one I'm talking about. And I forgot about it because I was busy exploring the rest of the castle. And then someone showed me, oh, you go down that ladder. I'm like, oh, I forgot to fucking check where that ladder goes. Damn it. And that was frustrating. I'm going to be honest. That's kind of frustrating. There should be more than one path to a lot of these areas. Dark Souls 1 is renowned for that. It's renowned for that. It really is. If you can find your way for the most part, I mean, yeah, sure, there's only one way to, like, the Catacombs and the Tomb of the Giants. No, that might not be true. There might be another way to the Tomb of the Giants now that I think about it. But, you know, that's my point then, you know? There's definitely only one way to Ash Lake. But, yeah, you know, finding that was pretty cool. Anyway, I like Shadow of the Erdtree. I would say that it bumps Elden Ring up as a whole up to a 9.7. And I guess I'm going to leave it there on that topic. And as far as Shadow of the Erdtree, in relation to Elden Ring, without that in mind, with Elden Ring by itself in mind. So you kind of know where I stand on it as a whole. Next up, I want to piss off a lot of people by talking about Tears of the Kingdom. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom came out and it was marketed and sold as a sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And what we got was basically like a copy-paste, more or less, in like a second attempt, or like let me try that again, as if they didn't get it right the first time. As if they didn't get it right the first time. Breath of the Wild was, I mean, if I'm rating Breath of the Wild, it's a 9.8. Higher than Elden Ring, even with Shadow of the Erdtree. Oh, man, but Tears of the Kingdom. FromSoftware basically made a sequel to Elden Ring and sold it as an expansion, whereas Nintendo made an expansion to Breath of the Wild and sold it as a sequel. And they charged more for it. It's, you know, playing Shadow of the Erdtree makes me, as someone who is a huge Zelda fan, it makes me think that FromSoftware is kind of making Nintendo look incompetent. And I'm going to stand by that. You know what? It's like, I don't think Nintendo really understands the Zelda intellectual property as much as, like, at least I shouldn't say that. I should say they don't understand what it is about The Legend of Zelda that makes such a huge slice of the Western market buy into it. And it's a tone, and it's a feeling, and it's something that they haven't really tapped into as much. I mean, they basically just it really just felt like they were copying Hayao Miyazaki. And don't get me wrong, they have their inspiration, and they have the right to be inspired by Miyazaki and Howl's Moving Castle and Princess Mononoke and things like that. But, you know, I think when I compare the Zelda team to the lead team at FromSoftware, I think FromSoftware is kind of just scratching the itch that a lot of gamers have when it comes to trying to create the hero's journey in video game form. I think that's the best way I can put it. So I'm going to move on instead of continuing to talk shit about Tears of the Kingdom. But that's mostly because this is a Shadow of the Erdtree video. So let's move on, and let's talk about Shadow of the Erdtree and Elden Ring, and kind of give you a context in relation to Lies of P. I told you I'd be talking about this again in this video. Here we go. Lies of P. Base game. Also a 9.6. when compared to Elden Ring as a base game, 9.6. Now, my main thing with Lies of P, I would say I've got a couple problems, one of which is a little more nitpicky than I thought it was at first. Now that I look back on it, I think the level design is actually pretty good for Lies of P. I think it could use a little bit more, I think it feels a little synthetic. It doesn't feel super organic. I don't think the linearity is the issue. I think that the issue is that just the level design in and of itself didn't feel super duper like out there, kind of like how FromSoftware's does, where FromSoftware's is like very labyrinthian, but not like in a synthetic factory setting kind of way where you would expect from like a roguelike or something like that. It really does look as wild as the randomness of nature and the earth itself. That's a real spot where FromSoftware shines in their level design. And so that's one of the things about Lies of P that a lot of people, I don't think they articulated super well, because the level design is really good in Lies of P. It's just we're comparing it to FromSoftware, who've kind of become masters of it at this point. So that's my thought on that, but a lot of people really didn't like the difficulty. I think it was really difficult. Not difficult enough for me, but at the same time, for this being their very first Souls-like out of the gate, maybe they should have kind of eased people into it a little more. I genuinely think the game would have seen more sales and better reviews if they eased people into it a little bit more. I love the game, and I love how difficult it is, and I love how unapologetic it is for that, but at the same time, it's a little safer to do that once you've established that you're going to be like that. And I guess this did that, but at the same time, I don't know, Demon's Souls felt a little bit more accessible, at least to me. But, I mean, you know, I've played a lot of FromSoftware games, so when I played Lies of P, it's like, you know, I knew what I was kind of getting into, especially since I had already played the demo. That's a big part of it, but I don't know. Point being, I really like Lies of P. It is only, I don't know, I hear that Lies of P is on PS4, as well as Elden Ring obviously is. So, the two are pretty similar. I give the two pretty similar ratings, but for very different reasons, as they are very different games. But, I mean, man, I really do like that Lies of P combat, you guys. That is a fun game, and Elden Ring's combat is very fun as well. And Elden Ring has advantages over Lies of P, as Lies of P has over Elden Ring. I think Lies of P is more graphically impressive on a technical level. I think Elden Ring has better art direction, and Elden Ring has multiplayer, but Lies of P has like 60 frames a second, and again, better graphics, like no questions asked. I do think Lies of P has a more well-presented story, actually. I do think so. Elden Ring, I love the story and I love the lore, but, I mean, man, you know, at least with Lies of P, if you've played it, there's a moment near the end where one of the main characters you have a choice to make with one of them, and it was very well executed. It was really, like, I mean, Lies of P does a lot of things that FromSoftware could look at and be like, oh, that is a really good idea. The mechanic where you can get one health unit back and consume it in the middle of a fight if you run out in Lies of P, genius idea. And the way that they kind of have both parrying and dodging in the combat for Lies of P, it's very well done, and the animations are very well done. I could go on about Lies of P, but I guess my point with why I even bring it up in this video is I'm excited to compare the two as soon as all of the DLC for Lies of P has been released. And I've played it, obviously. I'm going to do a live stream of it when it comes out, whenever that is. I have no idea when, but man, I am ready for it when it happens. So I do look forward to that, as I do think that, you know, both games are kind of equals in my eyes, more or less. So I would like for that to continue to be the case. If not, find out which one stands as the clear winner in my opinion. Now, to wrap things up, Shadow of the Erdtree does a really good job of, outside of what I already mentioned, expanding on its own combat formula in the form of the Smith script weapons, the, you know, kicking and punching weapons that they have in there, the bear claws and stuff like that. Really expansive amount of, like, incantations, or excuse me, yeah, incantations, sorceries, and arcane spells, which is just... I mean, Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree as a package is a magnificent deal. An excellent value. Couldn't recommend it enough. However, I do think that with more and more developers trying to throw their hat in the ring with the Souls-like formula, FromSoftware is going to start to see some solid competition in the future. We've been used to Souls-likes kind of being mediocre, 7 out of 10 entries at best, at least to some people relative to FromSoftware. But, I mean, I like Shadow of the Erdtree, but I suspect that the Lies of P DLC is going to... I suspect I'm going to enjoy that more, to be honest. I do. I hope I'm... I hope I'm right, honestly. I hope I'm right, but at the same time, it's like, they're both great. I love Shadow of the Erdtree. But I do think I'm going to like the DLC for Lies of P more. And so I will wrap up my thoughts there. Shadow of the Erdtree does bring my rating of Elden Ring up to a 9.7 as a whole, but Shadow of the Erdtree itself, I would rate at a 9.5. Let me know your thoughts on Elden Ring and its expansion down below. Thank you everybody for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff, and we'll see you all next time. Until then, keep leveling up everyone, and take care.